The blue waters of Zephyr Prime turned red under the burning sky. Ambassador HFY pressed his webbed hands against the observation window, watching another transport ship explode in the distance. The Kreth had been attacking for 6 months now. Each day brought more death, more destruction, more fear. "Ambassador, the council is ready for you," said his assistant, Velna. Her voice shook like the building around them as another explosion rocked the capital city. HFY swam through the flooded corridors of the council chamber. The 7 species of the Zephyrian Confederation had built this place as a symbol of peace. Now it felt like a tomb. The other ambassadors floated in their biosuits, their faces showing the same fear he felt in his hearts. High Counselor Mora Keth spoke first. Her ancient voice carried across the water-filled room. "We have lost another colony world. Tethys 4 is gone. The Kreth stripped it clean in 3 days." The room fell silent except for the bubble streams from their breathing apparatus. Tethys 4 had been home to 12 million souls. Now it was just rock floating in space. "Our fleets cannot stop them," continued Admiral Zexpol, his tentacles curling with frustration. "Every ship we send, they destroy. Every weapon we use, they laugh at. They are too strong." HFY had seen the battle reports. The Kreth ships were massive things made of living metal. They ate energy weapons like food and grew stronger. Their own weapons could crack a planet in half. The Confederation's peaceful technology was no match for such violence. "There is one option we have not tried," said Counselor Velmore, her young voice cutting through the despair. "The old stories speak of others beyond the rim." "The Deathworlders." The chamber erupted in nervous chatter. Every species had heard the stories. Far beyond known space, on a world so deadly that just living there was a battle, evolved a race of creatures unlike any other. They called themselves humans. "Those are myths," protested Admiral Zexpol. "Stories to frighten children, are they?" Velmore pulled up a holographic display. "We have detected signals from that region. Radio transmissions. Energy signatures. Something lives out there, and it builds technology." HFY studied the data. The signals were strange, harsh somehow, not like the gentle communications of civilized species. These transmissions felt aggressive, military. "Even if they exist," HFY said slowly, "why would they help us? We have nothing to offer such beings." High Counselor Mora Keth's eyes gleamed with desperate hope. "Because the enemy of our enemy might be our friend. The Kreth have been expanding toward the rim for decades. If these humans exist, the Kreth will find them eventually." The logic was sound, but HFY felt cold fear in his blood. The few refugee reports about humans painted them as savage creatures. They supposedly came from a world where everything tried to kill everything else. A place where the very air could burn and the water could freeze solid. "The stories say they are violent," HFY warned. "Unpredictable. They solve problems with warfare." "Good," said Admiral Zexpol grimly. "We need violence now. Our peace has brought us only death." The vote was close. 4 species agreed to send the message. 3 voted against. HFY was one of those who said no, but democracy had spoken. They crafted the message carefully. It had to be translated into mathematical concepts since they knew nothing of human language. The basic meaning was simple: "We are dying, help us. We will pay any price." HFY watched the transmission beam race toward the galactic rim. Part of him hoped it would find nothing but empty space. Another part prayed it would find salvation. 3 days later, the Kreth attacked Zephyr Prime itself. The assault began at dawn with a bombardment that shook the planet's core. Kreth harvester ships descended like metal vultures, their mining beams carving chunks from the surface. The Confederation's orbital defenses lasted 47 minutes. HFY evacuated with millions of others to the deep-sea shelters. The Kreth could not follow them into the crushing depths, but they could wait above like patient predators. In the shelter, families huddled together in the darkness. Children who had never known war asked why the water tasted of fear. Elders who remembered the last great conflicts spoke of the end times. "Sir," Velna approached HFY with a communication pad. "We are receiving signals from the rim." HFY's heart stopped for a moment. "Already? The message only left 3 days ago." "The transmission is strange, sir. Multiple sources, heavily encrypted, but we caught fragments in clear speech." "They are coming." The fragments were troubling. References to fleet mobilization and rules of engagement and target priority assessment. This did not sound like a rescue mission. It sounded like preparation for war. "How many ships?" HFY asked. "Unknown, sir. but the energy signatures suggest many, very many. Above them, the Kreth continued their methodical destruction of the surface. Below, the Confederation huddled in the depths and waited for whatever gods they had awakened in the dark between stars. Kethva floated in his small quarters, staring at reports from across Confederation space. Every world under attack, every fleet scattered or destroyed, 7 civilizations facing extinction because they had chosen peace over preparation. His communication pad chimed with an urgent message from long-range sensors. A massive gravity disturbance at the edge of the system. Something big was coming out of hyperspace. The first ships appeared like metal storms against the stars, then more. Then so many that the sensor operators stopped counting and started praying. The human fleet had arrived. Kethva studied the tactical displays with growing horror. These were not the small, peaceful vessels he had hoped for. These were instruments of war beyond anything in Confederation knowledge. Each ship bristled with weapons that could crack moons. Their formation moved with predatory precision. A transmission came through on all frequencies. The voice was calm, confident, and terrifying in its certainty. Attention, Kreth forces. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Command. You are attacking our allies. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The Kreth response was swift and arrogant. They had faced dozens of species and crushed them all. These newcomers would be no different. They were wrong. The first human attack deleted 3 Kreth destroyers from existence in under 10 seconds. Energy beams that made stars look dim carved through Kreth armor like hot knives through water. Projectiles moving at impossible speeds turned mighty Kreth dreadnoughts into expanding clouds of metal vapor. But it was the tactical coordination that truly terrified Kethva. The humans fought like a single mind controlling hundreds of bodies. They anticipated Kreth movements before the Kreth made them. They attacked weak points that should not have existed. In 6 hours, the Kreth fleet above Zephyr Prime was destroyed completely. Not defeated, not damaged, not forced to retreat. Destroyed. Turned into cosmic dust and fading energy signatures. The human admiral sent another transmission, this time to the Confederation shelters. Zephyrian allies. This is Admiral Chen. The immediate threat to your homeworld has been eliminated. My fleet is moving to secure your other colonies. We received your call for help. Consider it answered. Kethva stared at the tactical display showing the advancing human fleet. They had asked for help and received it. But as he watched those deadly ships spreading across Confederation space like an unstoppable tide, one thought echoed in his mind. What have we done? Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. The Kreth fleet above Zephyr Prime was nothing but debris now. Her ships had performed exactly as expected. Clean, efficient, overwhelming. Ma'am, we're getting communication requests. From the planet's surface, reported Lieutenant Hayes from the communication station. Put them through. The hologram showed a creature unlike anything in human databases. Blue-skinned, with large black eyes and webbed appendages. It spoke through a translation device that gave its words a mechanical quality. I am Ambassador Kethva of the Zephyrian Confederation. We thank you for your assistance against the Kreth. Chen nodded professionally. Admiral Sarah Chen, 3rd Expeditionary Fleet. We received your transmission 3 weeks ago. My government takes attacks on allied species very seriously. There was a pause. The alien's expression was hard to read, but Chen sensed confusion. Allied species? Kethva repeated slowly. Any species requesting military aid against aggressive expansion by hostile forces becomes an automatic ally under the Terra Defense Doctrine. The Kreth Dominion's actions constitute acts of war against both your people and humanity. Chen watched the alien's face change. Fear, concern? The translation protocols were still learning these creatures' expressions. Admiral, when we sent our message, we were hoping for refugee assistance. Perhaps some supplies or shelter for our people. Chen frowned. Ambassador, your transmission described ongoing military attacks against your colonies. The proper response to military aggression is military intervention. We're here to end the Kreth threat permanently. The alien seemed to shrink back from the display. Permanently? Complete neutralization of their military capability and political structure. Standard human response to genocidal expansion. Don't worry, Ambassador. We've dealt with species like this before. After the communication ended, Chen turned to her tactical officer. Commander Torres, what's our fleet status? All ships operational, Admiral. Minimal damage from the engagement. The Kreth weapons were less effective than projected. Chen had expected as much. Human ship design prioritized survivability above all else. Every vessel was built to fight outnumbered and win. Every crew trained to think 3 moves ahead of their enemies. What about the other Kreth positions in this sector? 7 major installations, 15 patrol fleets, and their main supply base at Morthak Prime. Total estimated enemy strength, 4,000 ships. Chen smiled grimly. Good odds. Signal the Retribution and the Valkyrie. We're moving to eliminate the Kreth presence in this entire sector. Ma'am, shouldn't we coordinate with the Confederation forces first? What forces, Commander? According to our intelligence, their entire military was scattered weeks ago. This is a human operation now. The 3rd Expeditionary Fleet moved through space like a pack of wolves. Chen had trained them well. Each ship captain knew their role. Each crew understood the mission. The Kreth had made the mistake of threatening human allies. Now they would learn why that was never a good idea. The first target was a mining operation on the dead world of Veltar. Kreth harvester ships were stripping the planet's core, leaving behind a hollow shell. Chen's ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. All ships execute pattern Delta. Target the harvesters first, then the escorts. The battle lasted 4 hours. It would have been shorter, but Chen wanted to test Kreth defensive capabilities. She was not impressed. Their ships were large and heavily armored, but they fought like individuals instead of units. No coordination, no tactical flexibility. Human doctrine emphasized teamwork above individual heroics. Every ship supported every other ship. When the Kreth focused fire on one target, 2 others would appear in their blind spots. When they tried to retreat, human ships would be waiting for them. The Kreth lost 60% of their fleet before the survivors fled in disorder. Admiral, Commander Torres reported, we're receiving transmissions from the fleeing ships. They're calling for reinforcements and... He paused, checking his translation. They're describing us as impossible predators and death incarnate. Chen nodded approvingly. Good. Fear was a useful weapon. Over the next week, the human fleet swept through Kreth positions like a cleansing fire. Each battle was easier than the last as word spread and Kreth morale collapsed. These creatures had never faced an enemy that actually wanted to fight. But it was the conversations with the Confederation that began to worry Chen. Admiral, we appreciate your thorough response, Ambassador Kethva said during their 3rd communication, but perhaps it would be wise to consider negotiations with the Kreth leadership. Negotiations? Chen was genuinely puzzled. Ambassador, they were committing genocide against your people. There's nothing to negotiate. But surely some arrangement could be reached. Perhaps territorial concessions or tribute payments. Chen stared at the alien diplomat. Ambassador, let me explain human policy regarding genocidal aggression. There is no negotiation. There is no arrangement. There is complete surrender or complete destruction. Nothing else. The alien's large eyes seemed to grow even larger. Complete destruction? If they choose to continue fighting, yes. We will hunt down every Kreth ship, occupy every Kreth world, and dismantle their entire military-industrial complex. This is what happens when you attack human allies. After the transmission ended, Chen wondered if she was being too harsh, but the intelligence reports were clear. The Kreth had destroyed dozens of colony worlds, killed billions of innocent beings. They had chosen this path. A week later, human engineers arrived at Zephyr Prime. Admiral, reported Captain Martinez of the Engineering Corps, we're ready to begin construction of the defense platforms. Where would you like them positioned? Chen studied the orbital mechanics of the Zephyrian homeworld. Standard pattern, 48 platforms in geosynchronous orbit with overlapping fields of fire. Make sure they can stop anything short of a full battle fleet. What about the locals, ma'am? They're asking a lot of questions about permanent installations. Tell them it's for their protection. The Kreth will be back eventually, probably with everything they have. These people need real defenses. But when Ambassador Kethva called to discuss the defense platforms, his tone was different. Nervous. Admiral, we are grateful for the protection, but we did not request permanent military installations. Ambassador, you requested help against the Kreth. This is what help looks like. Military protection requires military infrastructure. But these platforms, they're not just defensive, are they? Chen checked the specifications. Each platform mounted enough firepower to sterilize a continent. They're designed to stop any possible Kreth return. That requires significant offensive capability, and they're controlled by human personnel. Of course, your people don't have the training to operate military-grade equipment. There was a long silence. Admiral, who exactly controls these platforms? The Terra Defense Command under my authority as Regional Commander. Regional Commander? Chen realized the alien didn't understand basic military organization. I'm responsible for the defense of this entire sector now. Your worlds, your people, your security. It's all under my protection. The alien's face showed an expression the translators labeled as distress. Admiral, we asked for help, not occupation. Chen felt a flash of irritation. Ambassador, my people are dying to protect yours. We've committed massive resources to ensure your survival. This isn't occupation, it's Alliance responsibility. But as she watched the alien's fearful expression, Chen began to wonder if these creatures understood what they had asked for. Humans took their responsibilities seriously. When they promised protection, they delivered it completely, whether their allies wanted it or not. The communication ended with the alien looking more troubled than grateful. Chen dismissed it as cultural differences. These people came from a peaceful civilization. They didn't understand that real protection required real power. Her fleet continued its advance toward Kreth space, leaving behind a trail of human bases, human sensors, and human control. The Confederation was safe now. Chen just hoped they would eventually appreciate the price of safety. High Admiral Krexvor of the Kreth Dominion studied the battle reports with growing disbelief. 4 major fleets destroyed, 18 installations captured or eliminated. The mining operations at Veltar completely annihilated. These reports must be wrong, he declared to his assembled commanders. The crystalline beings around the strategy table shifted nervously, their silicon bodies resonating with uncertainty. The reports are confirmed, High Admiral, said Fleet Commander Zarakol. Multiple sources, multiple witnesses. These humans are unlike any species we have encountered. Krexvor activated the holographic display, showing the tactical analysis of the Veltar engagement. They destroyed 60 ships in 4 hours. 60! Our best fleet commanders, our strongest vessels. It gets worse, High Admiral, continued Zarakol. They didn't just win through superior numbers. They had fewer ships than our forces. They won through... She paused, searching for words. Through superior violence, the other commanders muttered among themselves. The Kreth had ruled through intimidation and overwhelming force for 3 centuries. No species had ever matched their appetite for destruction. Show me how they fight, Krexvor commanded. The hologram shifted to show recordings from the battle. Human ships moved with predatory grace, never where the Kreth expected them to be. Their weapons fired in coordinated volleys that spoke of planning and practice. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to enjoy the battle. Listen to their communications, Zarakol said, activating audio feeds. Human voices filled the chamber, speaking in clipped, efficient tones. But underneath the military precision was something else. Excitement, laughter, the sound of creatures who loved what they were doing. Target down. Nice shot, Martinez. Watch your 6th, Thunderbolt. You got 2 bogeys coming in hot. Roger that, Control. Moving to intercept. This is fun. Fun. They called warfare fun. Krexvor felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. High Admiral. Another commander spoke up. There's more. Our intelligence division has been analyzing their technology. These weapons, these ships, they're not designed for exploration or trade. They're designed specifically for war. All spacefaring species build warships, Krexvor protested. No, sir. You don't understand. These aren't civilian ships with weapons added. These are pure military vessels. Everything about them serves the purpose of destruction. Their entire civilization appears to be organized around warfare. The implication struck Krexvor like a physical blow. The Kreth had conquered through superior aggression. But what if they had encountered a species more aggressive than themselves? Mobilize the 2nd and 3rd fleets, he ordered. We will crush these humans before they can spread their influence. The Battle of Kepler Station became the first major engagement between human and Kreth forces. Krexvor commanded personally, bringing 800 ships against the human fleet of 200. The humans were waiting for them. All ships. This is Admiral Chen, came the calm voice across human communications. Execute Plan Gamma. Remember, they outnumber us 4-1, so we'll have to be creative. Creative. Krexvor wondered what that meant. He found out quickly. The human fleet split into smaller groups, each moving in seemingly random directions. Krexvor ordered his ships to pursue and destroy them individually. It seemed like an easy victory. Then the traps were sprung. Human ships had been laying mines throughout the system for hours before the battle began. Not just explosive mines, but gravity distortion devices that pulled Kreth ships out of formation, sensor jammers that blinded their targeting systems, micro-drones that attached to hulls and overloaded power systems, but it was the human tactics that truly shocked Krexvor. They fought in 3 dimensions, using the star's gravity to accelerate their ships beyond normal limits. They fired weapons that could bend around obstacles using magnetic fields. They coordinated attacks across impossible distances with split-second timing. Most disturbing of all, they adapted. Every time the Kreth tried a new strategy, the humans had a counter-strategy ready in minutes. It was as if they had fought this exact battle 1,000 times before. "Sir," his tactical officer reported in panic. "They're using our own ships against us." Krexvor looked at the display in horror. Human boarding parties had somehow captured 3 Kreth destroyers and were now using them to attack other Kreth vessels. The humans had studied Kreth technology during the battle and learned to use it against them. "How is this possible?" Krexvor demanded. "Sir, their boarding shuttles they're like bullets with crews inside. They punch through our armor and deploy soldiers directly onto our ships. Our security forces can't stop them." The human marines fought with weapons and armor that transformed them into living machines of war. They moved through Kreth ships like natural disasters, unstoppable and inevitable. But it was their communication that chilled Krexvor's silicon heart. "Hoorah. Another ship down! These crystal guys break real easy. Anyone keeping score?" "I'm up to 12. They were keeping score, treating the systematic destruction of his fleet like a game. In 8 hours, the Kreth lost 400 ships. The humans lost 37. Krexvor retreated with the remnants of his force, his mind reeling. The Kreth Dominion had never lost a battle this badly. They had never faced enemies who fought with such joy, such creativity, such absolute commitment to victory. "High Admiral," his communications officer reported, "the humans are transmitting a message." Admiral Chen's face appeared on the display, calm and professional. "High Admiral Krexvor, I presume? I'm Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Command. I want to discuss terms." "Terms?" Krexvor managed to speak despite his shock. "Unconditional surrender of all Kreth military forces. Immediate cessation of all aggressive activities against Confederation worlds. Reparations for damages caused by your expansion campaigns. And if we refuse?" Chen's smile was colder than space. "Then we continue this war until your species no longer has the capability to threaten anyone. We have 12 more fleets en route to this sector. You've seen what one fleet can do. 12 more fleets." Krexvor felt his crystalline structure crack with stress. "This is not over, human," he declared, trying to maintain some dignity. "Actually, it is," Chen replied. "You just don't know it yet. We've studied your empire's structure during our advance. We know where your shipyards are, where your command centers are located, where your leaders hide. We could end this tomorrow if we wanted to. Then why don't you?" "Because we want you to surrender. It's cleaner that way. Less paperwork." The transmission ended, leaving Krexvor staring at empty space. Less paperwork. They were treating the destruction of his empire as a bureaucratic inconvenience. Reports continued to pour in from across Kreth space. Human forces were advancing on multiple fronts, capturing installations with impossible speed and efficiency. Every Kreth fleet sent to stop them was destroyed or scattered. But it was the reports from captured territories that truly horrified the Kreth leadership. The humans weren't just conquering. They were studying, learning everything about Kreth technology, Kreth society, Kreth weaknesses. They were preparing for total war. In his private chambers, Krexvor accessed the classified files about human civilization. What he found there broke his spirit completely. These creatures came from a world where survival required constant warfare, not just against other species but against the planet itself. They had evolved in conditions that would kill most galactic species in minutes. Their entire technological development had been driven by the need to create better weapons, better armor, better ways to kill their enemies. They had fought wars among themselves for thousands of years, perfecting the art of destruction. Every human strategy, every human tactic, every human innovation had been tested in actual combat against opponents who understood warfare as well as they did. The Kreth Dominion had conquered peacekeepers and traders. Now they faced a species that lived for war. HFY sent a coded message to the Kreth Supreme Council. Recommend immediate negotiations. We cannot win this war. But deep in his crystal heart, he knew it was already too late. The humans had come for war, and they would not stop until they had it. All of it. Ambassador HFY floated in his office, staring at reports that should have brought joy but instead filled him with dread. The humans had liberated 17 Confederation worlds in 2 weeks. Kreth forces were retreating on all fronts. His people were safe. So why did he feel like they had traded one conqueror for another? Sir, his assistant Velna entered with another data pad. The human engineering teams have finished their survey of our industrial facilities. HFY took the report and immediately wished he hadn't. The humans had cataloged every factory, every mine, every power plant in Confederation space. They knew the exact production capacity of each world, the location of every strategic resource, the defensive potential of every system. This is very detailed, HFY observed carefully. Yes, sir. They said it was for strategic planning purposes, to better coordinate our mutual defense. Mutual defense. The humans used that phrase often, but HFY noticed it always meant human control of Confederation assets. His communication device chimed with an incoming message from Admiral Chen. She appeared professional and friendly. As always, Ambassador, I have good news. My government has approved the establishment of permanent defense installations throughout Confederation space. We'll be able to guarantee your security indefinitely. Admiral, HFY chose his words carefully, we are grateful for your protection, but perhaps we should discuss the terms of this arrangement. Terms? Chen looked genuinely puzzled. Ambassador, we're allies. Allies help each other. Your people need protection, my people provide it. What terms are needed? Well, for example, who makes decisions about these defense installations? What about sovereignty over our worlds? What about our own military development? Chen's expression grew serious. Ambassador, let me be direct. Your military was completely destroyed by the Kreth. Your technology is centuries behind current standards. Your people have no experience with real warfare. If you want to survive in this galaxy, you need human protection. But for how long? For as long as necessary. The answer chilled HFY more than he cared to admit. As long as necessary could mean forever. After the communication ended, HFY swam to his personal quarters and activated his secure connection to High Counselor Mora Keth. Honored Counselor, we need to discuss the human presence in our space. The elderly Zephyrian's image flickered in the hologram. What concerns you, Ambassador? They are building military bases on every world we control. They have cataloged all our resources. They are making decisions about our defense without consulting us. Are we not safer because of their actions? Yes, but HFY struggled to find the right words. Safety and freedom are not the same thing. Mora Keth was quiet for a long moment. Show me the military reports. HFY transmitted the latest intelligence on human activities. The data was overwhelming. Human ships patrolled every system. Human sensors monitored every transmission. Human bases controlled every strategic location. This looks like occupation, Mora Keth said finally, but they call it protection. Perhaps the difference is smaller than we thought. 2 days later, HFY received word that human representatives wanted to discuss economic cooperation agreements. The meeting took place aboard the human command ship, and HFY found himself face-to-face with Colonel James Morrison, Director of Human Colonial Administration. Ambassador, we're excited about the opportunities for cooperation between our peoples. Morrison began enthusiastically. Your worlds have resources we need and we have technology you need. What kind of cooperation? HFY asked. Morrison activated a holographic display showing trade routes and production schedules. We'd like to establish efficient extraction operations on your mineral-rich worlds. In exchange, we'll provide advanced technology and guaranteed security. HFY studied the proposals with growing alarm. The humans wanted mining rights to most of the Confederation's valuable planets. They wanted to build factories using Confederation labor. They wanted to control shipping routes and trade agreements. Colonel, this seems less like cooperation and more like... He paused, searching for a diplomatic term. Like what, Ambassador? Like you want to control our economy. Morrison looked genuinely surprised. Ambassador, we're offering partnership. Your people work the facilities. Our people provide the technology and security. Everyone benefits, but you control the facilities. Well, yes, we have the expertise to run them efficiently. And you control the profits. We reinvest most profits into your defense. Infrastructure. Defense. Infrastructure that you also control. Morrison's friendly expression hardened slightly. Ambassador, let me be frank. Your people were facing extinction 3 weeks ago. Now you're safe, protected, and being offered economic opportunities. I'm not sure I understand your objections. HFY realized the humans genuinely couldn't see the problem. From their perspective, they were generously providing everything the Confederation needed. From his perspective, they were taking everything the Confederation had. That evening, HFY called an emergency session of the Confederation Council. The discussion was heated and fearful. They have warships over every world, reported Admiral Zexpol. If we tried to resist them, they could destroy us in hours. But they saved us, protested Councillor Velmore. Without them, we would all be dead. Are we alive or are we pets? Asked Councillor Harnett, his anger making the water around him bubble. They feed us, house us, protect us, and make all our decisions for us. High Councillor Moraketh spoke slowly. We asked for help. We received it. Now we must decide if the price was acceptable. What choice do we have? Zexpol demanded. If we ask them to leave, the Kreth will return. And if we ask them to stay, we lose our independence forever. The debate continued for hours, but HFY knew there was no solution. They had created a problem with no good answers. The next day, he requested a private meeting with Admiral Chen. She received him in her quarters, which were spartanly functional and filled with weapons displays. Admiral, I want to speak plainly with you. Please do. Ambassador. My people are beginning to feel like prisoners in their own homes. Chen set down her coffee cup and studied HFY carefully. Explain. You make decisions about our worlds without consulting us. You control our defenses, our trade, our security. You treat us like children who cannot be trusted with adult responsibilities. Ambassador, you called for help because you couldn't handle adult responsibilities. The Kreth were killing you, but now you're controlling us. Chen's expression showed genuine confusion. Ambassador, I'm protecting you. My ships, my people, my resources are all dedicated to your safety. How is that controlling you? Because we have no choice in the matter. You have the choice to be alive instead of dead. Isn't that enough? HFY realized the fundamental gap between them. Humans saw protection and control as the same thing. The Confederation saw them as opposites. Admiral, what would happen if we asked you to leave? Chen was quiet for a long moment. The Kreth would return. They would kill every man, woman, and child in your space. Your species would become extinct. So we cannot ask you to leave. Not if you want to survive. Then we are not truly allies. We are your dependents. Chen's face showed the first hint of uncertainty HFY had ever seen from her. Ambassador, my people have spent enormous resources to save yours. We've lost ships and crews protecting your worlds. All we ask in return is the cooperation necessary to keep you safe. But that cooperation includes control over our entire civilization. If that's what's necessary for your protection, then yes. HFY floated there for a moment, understanding finally complete. The humans weren't evil. They weren't deliberately cruel. They were simply doing what came naturally to them, taking complete responsibility for everything they protected. Admiral, let me ask you something. In human society, when you protect something, do you control it? Of course. How else can you guarantee its safety? And that seems natural to you? It seems logical. Responsible protection requires authority over the protected asset. HFY nodded slowly. Thank you for your honesty, Admiral. As he left the human ship, HFY understood their situation completely. The humans hadn't conquered the Confederation. They had adopted it, like parents taking responsibility for children who couldn't care for themselves. The problem was, the children were entire civilizations, and the parents had no intention of ever letting them grow up. That night, HFY began writing his memoirs. Future generations would need to understand how the Confederation had traded its freedom for its life, and why both choices had seemed reasonable at the time. He titled the first chapter, The Day We Called for Help. The siege of Morthak Prime lasted 3 days and shook the foundations of galactic civilization. Admiral? Chen watched from the bridge of the Indomitable as human forces systematically dismantled the most powerful fortress in Kreth space. The Kreth had built their capital world inside a massive asteroid field, turning each rock into a weapon platform. Thousands of defensive installations protected the planet's surface. It should have been impregnable. It wasn't. Human engineering corps had spent weeks studying the asteroid field's gravitational patterns. When the assault began, they didn't attack the defenses directly. Instead, they destabilized the entire field, turning the Kreth's protective barrier into a chaotic storm of colliding rocks. "Ma'am," reported Commander Torres. "The Kreth Supreme Council is requesting immediate surrender negotiations." Chen nodded grimly. The siege had been necessary, but she took no pleasure in the destruction. "Tell them we'll accept their surrender aboard the Indomitable in 1 hour." The Kreth delegation that arrived was a shadow of the proud empire that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries. High Admiral Krexvor moved slowly, his crystalline body showing stress fractures from the defeat. "Admiral Chen," he said formally, "the Kreth Dominion formally surrenders all military forces and territorial claims." "Accepted," Chen replied. "Your military will be disbanded, your weapons destroyed, your expansion permanently ended." "What of our people?" Chen had been thinking about that question for weeks. "Your civilians will be relocated to designated worlds under human supervision. We'll provide basic necessities and ensure your survival." Krexvor's body resonated with what the translators interpreted as bitter laughter. "From conquerors to charity cases in 3 months. Your species is remarkably efficient." After the surrender ceremony, Chen retired to her quarters to write her final report. The war was over, but she felt oddly empty. Victory should have brought satisfaction, not this strange sense of unease. Her door chimed with an incoming visitor. "Enter." Ambassador Keith Va floated into the room, looking older than when they had first met. The war had aged them all. "Admiral, I wanted to congratulate you on your victory." "Thank you, Ambassador." Chen gestured to a chair designed for aquatic species. "Please sit. We need to talk." Kethva settled into the chair, his large eyes studying Chen carefully. "About our future relationship?" "Among other things." Chen pulled up a holographic map showing the current state of the galaxy. "We've received surrender offers from 17 other species in this sector. Word of our capabilities has spread. I imagine it has. The thing is, Ambassador, none of these species actually attacked us. They're surrendering preemptively because they're afraid of what we might do." Kethva nodded slowly. "Fear is a powerful motivator, but it's not the foundation we wanted for galactic relations." Chen zoomed in on Confederation space, now dotted with human installations. "We came here to help you fight the Kreth. Somehow we've ended up as the de facto government of half the sector. And how does that make you feel, Admiral?" Chen was quiet for a long moment. "Tired, responsible for things we never asked to control. When I was a child, I dreamed of exploring the galaxy and meeting new species as equals. Instead, we've become conquerors, protectors. But I'm beginning to think the difference is smaller than I thought." Kethva leaned forward. "Admiral, may I share something I've learned about your species?" "Please." "You are perhaps the only species in this galaxy that evolved as apex predators. Most of us developed from prey animals or cooperative social creatures. We build civilizations based on consensus and mutual aid." Chen frowned. "What does that have to do with anything?" "Everything. When prey species face danger, we seek help, hide or flee. When predators face danger, they eliminate the threat completely. When prey species offer aid, we provide what's needed and withdraw. When predators offer aid, they take responsibility for the protected until the threat is permanently removed." The implication struck Chen like a physical blow. "You're saying we can't help without controlling. I'm saying it's not in your nature to do anything halfway. You don't just defeat enemies, you annihilate them. You don't just protect allies, you absorb them into your protective structure." Chen stared at the galactic map, seeing it with new eyes. Every human installation, every defensive platform, every trade agreement was part of an expanding sphere of human influence. Not because they sought empire, but because they couldn't conceive of partial responsibility. "So what do we do now?" Chen asked. "You do what apex predators always do," Kethva replied. "You accept responsibility for your territory and everything in it." 3 months later, the Terran Protectorate was formally established. Not because humanity sought to rule the galaxy, but because every species they encountered assumed they already did. Chen found herself appointed as the first Protectorate governor, responsible for the welfare of 43 species across 200 worlds. It was not a job she had wanted, but it was one she couldn't refuse. The bureaucracy alone was staggering. Different species needed different environments, different social structures, different economic systems. Some were aquatic, some gaseous, some required high radiation levels to survive. Managing their needs while maintaining security was like solving 1,000 puzzles simultaneously. But the humans adapted, as they always did. They built environmental habitats, established cultural preservation zones, developed translation protocols for species that communicated through scent or electromagnetic fields. They also built the largest military force in galactic history. Not because they wanted to conquer anyone else, but because 43 species worth of territory required extensive protection. Governor, her aide reported during one of their daily briefings, "We're receiving another surrender offer. The hegemony of Clovis wants to join the Protectorate voluntarily." Chen sighed. "Do we even have a border with them?" "No, ma'am. They're 6 sectors away. But they've heard about our victory over the Kreth and want to be on the winning side. Add them to the list. We'll send a diplomatic mission next month." The expansion continued organically. Species joined not because humans forced them to, but because being outside the Protectorate was becoming increasingly dangerous. Pirates avoided Terran space. Aggressive empires looked for easier targets. Trade flowed smoothly under human protection. Within a year, the Terran Protectorate controlled nearly a quarter of the galaxy. Chen's final conversation with HFY took place in her new office on Terra Station, the massive diplomatic complex humanity had built to manage galactic affairs. "Any regrets, Ambassador?" Chen asked. HFY, now the Confederation's representative to the Protectorate Council, considered the question carefully. "We survived. Our children will grow up in a universe where genocide is impossible because you won't permit it. Our culture continues protected by the most powerful military force in galactic history. But we will never be independent again. None of us will. You've made yourselves responsible for everyone." Chen nodded. "And that terrifies you." "No, Admiral. What terrifies me is that it doesn't terrify you. You've accepted responsibility for the welfare of hundreds of billions of sentient beings as if it were a natural burden. Someone has to do it. See? That's exactly what I mean. Any other species would be overwhelmed by the magnitude of that responsibility. You just see it as a job that needs doing." Chen stood and walked to the massive viewport showing the bustling traffic around Terra Station. Ships from dozens of species moved in orderly patterns, protected by human patrol vessels that maintained constant vigilance. "HFY, let me ask you something. If we left tomorrow, if we dismantled the Protectorate and went back to Earth, what would happen? Chaos. War. The strong would prey on the weak until a new order emerged. So we can't leave." "No, you can't. You've made yourselves indispensable." Chen turned back to her old friend. "Did we save your people, or did we just choose to be your rulers?" HFY's expression was sad but accepting. "Perhaps, Admiral, that's the same thing. You came because we called for help. You conquered our enemies because that's what predators do. You stayed because leaving would mean our destruction. At every step you made the only choice your nature would permit. And we made the only choice our nature would permit. We chose survival over freedom, protection over independence. We called the Deathworlders for help and they answered. Everything else was inevitable." Chen returned to her desk where reports from across the galaxy waited for her attention. Economic disputes to mediate, territorial claims to resolve, defense plans to approve. The endless responsibilities of those who chose to protect. In his memoirs, published years later, HFY would write, "We cried for help, and the Deathworlders came. They saved us from our enemies, conquered our fears, and gave us peace. They asked for nothing in return except the right to ensure our safety forever. That perhaps was the most human thing of all. The Terran Protectorate would grow to encompass most of the galaxy within a generation, not through conquest but through the simple fact that no one felt safe outside its borders. Humanity had become what they had never intended to be, the guardians of galactic civilization. And in the end, both predator and prey learned to live with the consequences of that first desperate call for help, echoing across the void between species that